Hey everybody, Nicholas Snow. Welcome to the season premiere of Notes from Hollywood, one of 5 series on the PromoHomo.TV network, which expanded this summer into a full-fledged broadcast network, 5 series, 33 episodes. This marks the premiere week of my fall season, and I've got all kinds of exciting things coming up for you. So tomorrow, October 8th, because this is going out live on the 7th, is the beginning of the Heartland International Film Festival. I've had the opportunity to cover the festival for several years, and this pandemic has, in a sense, been bad news, but there's silver light. Well, there's no sense about it. It's been terrible news, but there are some silver linings. One of the silver linings in the pandemic when it comes to the film community is that film festivals, which generally have been focused toward live audiences, now have virtual screening opportunities. So now people from all over the world can attend a film festival. And in the case of Heartland International Film Festival, this is true. You can attend virtually from anywhere in the world, but also they're having in-person screenings at drive-thrus. Drive-thrus. I'm always thinking about food. Drive-in theaters, 2 drive-in theaters where they're having actual in-person screenings, in-car screenings, safe and socially distanced with your own pandemic pod, as they say. And but those of us that aren't in the festival get to watch from the comfort of our own homes. Another great thing about film festivals is that audiences get to see movies that don't become available to a lot of other people for quite a while, and this is no exception regarding at least one of the films that I'm talking about today. So how does one attend virtually or at a drive-in? Where do people find tickets and the festival lineup, and what films can we expect? Well, in today's premiere, I'm welcoming Julia Ricci, who's the senior programmer of the film festival, and also 2 very cool filmmakers. I've spoke to them very briefly, but I know they're cool because their films are cool. I have Sharon Liese. Her latest film, a documentary, is called Transhood, coming to HBO, and Mike Mosallam from the film Breaking Fast. They are my guests today, and I'm going to be back with this exciting lineup right after this.
You're with me, it's alright. Together, on our lives, a new start is inside. We're falling, it feels right. It's okay to hold me. You know where I wanna be. It's okay to hold me.
So I just want to let you know, as you learn more about the festival today, that you can go to heartlandfilm.org and you can find everything that you want and need to know to attend virtually or at one of the drive-in screenings. And if you want to find the specific information about the 2 films that I'll be talking about, this is the URL that will take you directly to this episode at the website PromoHomo.TV. Without further ado, I want to welcome to the show Julia Ricci, who is the senior programmer. Welcome, Julia.
Thanks, Nicholas. How are you?
And I'm fantastic. Nice to see you again. And I'm going to welcome Sharon Liese, who is the writer-director of Transhood. Welcome, Sharon.
Hello.
And Mike Mosallam. Mike, am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
Perfect.
Oh, fantastic.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm so honored to have all of you here today. And Mike, I watched your film Breaking Fast last night, and Sharon, I watched your film Transhood this morning. And before I dive deeper with the two of you into your films, Julia, I'd love to talk to you just about the challenge of programming a film festival and the joy when you get to find two gems of films like this among the others in your lineup.
Yeah, so at the start of this year, we weren't sure how we were going to be able to host a film festival safely. And so earlier this summer, we pivoted and we hosted the Indie Shorts International Film Festival virtually at the Tibbs Drive-In Theater in Indianapolis. And then so we were blown away by how the community rallied around to support the arts during this challenging time. And so despite this new format, Indie Shorts saw record numbers in FestPass sales and filmmaker participation, and also first-time attendees who usually aren't able to attend the festival because they can't travel to Indianapolis. So we had a lot of worldwide participants. So we had films from all over the world. We had, a lot of short films and all that. And so with that successful Indie Shorts under our belts, we felt that the Heartland International Film Festival will also be well embraced, and so we're excited to do that. And so the festival theme this year is the full spectrum of films. So we're celebrating a wide variety of genres, stories, and perspectives, and kind of those moving films with that humanity behind them. And that's what Breaking Fast and Transhood have as well. So we're really excited to have those two films in the festival.
Now, when I interviewed you this summer, one of the points that was made was your ticket sales were greater than they could have been if it was the in-person screenings only. You actually had more people seeing screenings because of the virtual opportunity. Is that ringing true for this festival as well?
Yes, and it's we're well on track for our ticket sales, our pre-sales for the festival, and so those only increase during the festival as well. So we always see a continuous flow of ticket buying and FestPass buying all the way up until the very end of the festival. So we're very excited to see what happens with this festival.
So as I point out at the link I'm putting on the screen, both of our filmmakers that I'm featuring today have live Q&As. They have screenings at the Drive-In Theater, and they have virtual screenings available. There's more information there and about the entire film festival at heartlandfilm.org. I'm going to bring Sharon big screen. I want to introduce your film. So Transhood was filmed over 5 years in Kansas City. It follows 4 transgender kids beginning at age 4, 7, 12, and 15 as they redefine coming of age. These trans kids and their families allow us into the intimate realities of how gender is reshaping the family next door in a never-before-told chronicling of growing up trans in the Heartland. The film is a nuanced examination of how families tussle, transform, and sometimes find unexpected purpose in their identities as trans families. That's very powerful, but because my viewers are really wanting to know, and you've told me before we started, where are you right now, Sharon?
I am traveling. I'm on the road. Right now I'm in Nebraska, on the side of the road. I'm filming something. Something I'm filming took me to North Dakota, and I'm making my way back to Kansas City.
Well, drive safely, and I'm so happy that you are here with us today. So your film isn't locked yet, am I correct? The final version isn't locked?
Oh, it is, yes.
It is, okay,
Yes.
because some of the language I got was saying this is a work in progress, so I thought, maybe this isn't the final cut.
Oh, well, maybe you saw something earlier on.
No, I saw the final cut. It's just the
Oh,
language that came with it today referred to it as a work in progress. So I'm pretty
oh,
sure I saw the final cut.
okay.
It's just the screener invite, I think, was. So it's one of the things that struck me about the film is that it takes place over the course of 5 years, which means that we get to relate moments in the story as they related to national events at the time, such as the transgender bathroom law or the election of Donald Trump, as just two examples. And it's pretty powerful to be able to see this film, even having lived through that, to more fully understand the impact of these events on individual lives.
Yes, yes. And that was one of the things that I really wanted to bring out in the film, is that there's this intimate level. There's so many layers of things that all of these kids have to navigate in their lives, and some of them are their intimate lives, their lives with their families and their friends, and then there's this whole social and political context that they're up against. And I obviously had no idea what was going to be changing and what kinds of things they would be up against over the years, but it certainly was eye-opening. And being in the middle of the country, in the heartland, to see some of these things that were happening in the world. Yeah, the inauguration of our current president was one of the most stunning.
Still today.
Yes, yes, and it's really scary for these kids.
One of the questions I was going to ask you, which has sort of been answered, you live in Kansas City, and that's where the documentary was filmed. And the question was, well, how did you have such consistent access to the subjects of the documentary, and they were basically in your own community?
Yes. I mean, as a documentary filmmaker, you always strive to be embedded in the community and with your subjects as much as possible. And, sometimes it takes you out of town, but when it's literally in the same city that you're in, it gives you so much more flexibility in terms of storytelling and being available for when things are actually happening and not missing things. And then also letting the story breathe. And so I was able to let it breathe over 5 years. So, I was really fortunate to be able to have access to those kids and those families, like very close to where I live.
I have one more question for you before I bring Mike into the conversation. How do you choose the subjects of such an important work? Because everyone might have their own motivation for even wanting to appear. How do you separate your goal as a filmmaker from perhaps their individual agendas?
That's a great question. I look for people who, many times the people I want to film are not necessarily people who want to be out there and want to be, they don't want to act, they don't want to be in the limelight. So it really is more of finding people who want to tell their story for a greater purpose than being out there for any like ego reason or different type of agenda like you're talking about. And usually I look for people who can really embrace the fact that telling their story is empowering, and telling their story can also be powerful to other people. And so I was, again, really fortunate that these, that the people, in my film were really willing to do that, and that they felt that way.
About telling your stories, I was on staff for the first National Coming Out Day in 1988, and when you look at the whole progress of the LGBTQI plus civil rights movement, it all comes down to individuals deciding to tell their truths.
Right. Yeah, and then it's very and that's also one of the themes in the film. As you see, it's about because coming out is very specific for someone who's transgender, and it's more of a disclosure. And sometimes people even say it's not as much of a coming out it's a disclosure, and it varies significantly among kids, among adults, among people, of how and when they are going to disclose.
Very good point. And coming out is a very personal experience. I'm going to bring Mike big screen because, Mike, I'm going to give your film its official intro. So in Breaking Fast, Mo, a practicing Muslim living in West Hollywood, is learning to navigate life post heartbreak. Enter Cal, an all-American guy who surprises Mo by offering to break fast with him during the holy month of Ramadan. As they learn more about each other, they fall in love over what they have in common and what they don't. I've, having lived in the LA area for a long time, I've went to Outfest more times than I can count, which is the LA Gay and Lesbian Film Festival. And I was so delighted that your film is so fresh. And there's so many parts of your story that are new and different and unseen and unique. And your film doesn't rely on, for example, I don't want to disappoint the audience. There's no like extremely intense sex scenes with lots of nudity. I mean, you often will find a lot of those in narrative feature films targeting a gay audience. I guess that leads me to a question. I'm guessing that you didn't have just a gay audience in mind when you made this movie.
Well, first of all, thank you for the question. And also, I just want to say before we dive into Breaking Fast, Sharon, your film sounds so wonderful, and I can't wait to see it. And it looks like it is so important. So thank you so much for making it.
Well,
It's
thank
coming
you.
to HBO.
Yeah, it'll be on HBO next month. But I was just thinking the same of yours when I heard the description.
Thank you. You know, I have to be honest with you, Nicholas. I definitely didn't set out to make just a queer film. I wanted to make a film that was about a very specific and authentic experience, and I really hoped that in doing so, the sexual orientation of, or the faith-based orientation of a person wouldn't matter who was watching it, and that through its authenticity and through its specificity, the themes would emerge as universal. And I think so much of what this film is specifically about is about the idea of how we love, how we accept love, how we oftentimes stand on our own way and reject it, and all of it is told under this sort of very specific lens of a queer Muslim man. But in the end, there's so many aspects of it that may be fresh and may be new, and we may not have seen such representation, but hopefully it's enough that it feels familiar to a lot of people in its presentation, in its themes, because it doesn't really matter. I bet we all kind of struggle with love or the idea of in the same way as humans.
Well, you know, that's a good point, because one of the things I just wanted to say to you is that queer film in general has come so far, because it used to all be about coming out, what happened, but our culture, our understanding, our vocabulary, our collective consciousness has evolved to the extent that so much of the inherent knowledge and understanding you would want an audience to have, they already have.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I really admired about and was jealous of your two lead characters is that even though they had their own challenges, they both had the sense of self-esteem and self-worth, that they were able to engage in a flirtatious romantic endeavor, which for me is still a challenge. So when I see these stories of hope that are reflected in on the screen, even in the form of a narrative, I find it to be inspiring.
I think that's right. I think we knew going in that this film would not be a coming out story. It wouldn't be a self-acceptance story. It wouldn't be a story of conflict between identities or the intersection of identities that people tend to see as conflicting. But it was really about, and I don't mean to repeat myself, but it really was a story of how we accept love. and not just romantic love, right? But like best friend love, familial love, love of faith, love of self. And it's just sort of, you know, in the film, really able to sort of dive into that question and that idea. And it's told in sort of using very conventional rom-com tropes, but in a way that we have yet to see rom-coms really explore, in my opinion, or my estimation.
Well, one of the things I also want to say about your film is that your character development was extraordinary, and
Oh, thank you.
I would describe your characters as four-dimensional, not just three-dimensional, but four-dimensional, and they're not this sort of cookie-cutter stereotype that you're going to see in your typical rom-com, which is almost like a adventure ride at Disneyland. I mean, uh, I just feel like there was so much authenticity, and that you didn't have to suspend your disbelief because of scenarios that would never really happen.
You're being so kind. I'm so attracted to you right now.
Well, I like to tell the truth, you know?
I appreciate it.
So we know Sharon's film is coming to HBO. Do you know about other opportunities that are going to exist for people to see Breaking Fast?
Yeah, we're very, very excited to play Heartland, and we're so thankful to Julia and her team for bringing this film there. We have a bunch of other festivals that we're also playing at before the year's end, and we're very lucky enough that in January we were picked up for distribution by Vertical Entertainment, and we don't know the specifics on the wide release, but in early 2021 there will be a wide release.
Well, that's thrilling. I want to bring everybody on screen right now. Julia, one of the things that I want to ask you is, do you ever have a political agenda when you're booking films? I'm not saying your personal political agenda, but are you striving to tell a diverse amount of stories based upon what's going on in the world? Is that ever part of your programming agenda?
Yeah, I think the themes it's interesting to see the themes and the trends that happen based on what's going on in the world, and we strive for a wide variety of programming and a wide variety of perspectives. But ultimately, it's just that good storytelling. So I wouldn't call it an agenda per se, but we do strive to have a wide variety of stories and perspectives, and stories that you might not always hear about or hear as much about in your everyday life. So we sorry, excuse me. Yeah, so we do strive to have the diversity of perspectives and different types of stories.
One of the things I learned in my own trip to Indie Shorts, which your festival produces, is that there's a lot of stereotypes about the Midwest that really are not true. And in your town, you have a very vibrant LGBT community, and but also films like these that we're talking on in today's show are so important for smaller communities because of the lack of accessibility and connectedness that exists in broader communities. Although you could say that it's easier to connect authentically in a smaller community than it is a bigger community. That's a completely different conversation. Sharon and Mike, when you're making a film, are you ever wearing a political and activist hat, or are you coming at it as a filmmaker? Are you doing both? Is it bad to do one or the other? I'm going to start with you, Sharon.
Well, I mean, I have to admit that, one of the motivations for doing documentaries in particular is to influence hearts and minds. So I do find myself gravitating towards stories of people who are marginalized, people who might be struggling with something. So to that extent, it may be political. Definitely social justice issues are at the forefront of the things that I am attracted to and that I am motivated to tell stories about. But I also want to be fair, and I love to tell an authentic story. So I don't say this is going to be a political film necessarily, but I know that there are political implications to some of the stories that I tell.
I have to say that I burst into tears at the last line of your film, just to put that out there. And there are other tear-jerking moments as well. So what about you, Mike?
Yeah, I echo so much of what Sharon just said. I mean, I think like just naturally as human beings and generally for me personally, like the things that I'm attracted to and the stories that I'm attracted to tend to live either on the fringes of the mainstream or happen to be sort of an intersection of identities that we don't often get to hear about. And I as a practicing Muslim and as a practicing gay man, I think the spectrum of those experiences is quite vast, and neither of those experiences are a monolith. So, inherently it is politically risque to sort of say some of the things that are at times somewhat innocuous to me. So I find myself sort of being political without even trying at times, because I'm just living or expressing or storytelling something that feels very authentic to either my life or looks like a life that is within my social realm.
One of the important things about both of your films, and I'm sure, Julia, about other films in the festival, is that they're showcasing untold stories of people that have not received the visibility and understanding that they deserve, and people about which there is a lot of hate and unjustified bias and all sorts of other issues. So film has the ability to change lives and to change consciousness. And I guess that's a good way to sort of bring our conversation to a close. I'd like to start. I'm going to go, so you have time to think about it. I'm going to go to Julia, Sharon, and then Mike. But Julia, I was wondering if you could just describe some examples of some films that have been in your festival that you feel have gone on to be connected to some sort of great social change.
Yeah, it's hard to narrow them down. We had one film a couple years ago called On Her Shoulders, which is a documentary about the Nobel Peace Prize winner Nadia Murad and her work. Her work with in the Middle East and Iraq, helping the Yazidi people, because her entire family had been murdered by ISIS and that whole story. And so she's working to help change that. And so that was our grand prize documentary winner. And so the filmmakers ended up donating the $20,000 grand prize to her initiative, her nonprofit, to help. So, and that film has gone on and gone on to a wider audience in that respect. Especially the documentaries, especially, they all kind of, they tend to go on and impact that wider audience. Same thing with the short films as well. Blackfeet Boxing, the ESPN documentary that we had at Indie Shorts this year. That one's raising awareness for the indigenous women being kidnapped and murdered here in the U.S. And it also addresses, there's a boxing gym on the Blackfeet Reservation that is empowering these young women to defend themselves. And so that documentary as well has really affected, touched our audiences, but has also gone on to touch, to raise awareness and also to touch people's hearts.
That's amazing. That's just such a beautiful story. But I meant to put Sharon big screen. So Sharon, I'm going to give you a different take. So have you had the chance to see your film with an audience?
Yes, I have. Not the way, I plan to through the festivals, but we did several screenings before we locked the film, and to get feedback, and it was amazing. We also had sent it to some organizations to get some feedback as well. But being in a room with parents, with young people, we had very diverse groups. We had probably 4 or 5 screenings, and hearing them tell us how important the film was to them, how it represented things that they were feeling, issues that they were navigating and negotiating in their lives, was so meaningful. And to know that we were respecting the stories that we were telling, and and not treading into areas that we really had no business being in. So it was really rewarding to be with an audience, and I certainly miss that through this festival time. And what I really miss is that the kids and the families don't have the opportunity to really see the audience reaction and know. And I've been talking to them about that for years. Like, you will see how you are really going to impact people and how powerful your stories are, and you will be thanked, and you'll see the gratitude in their eyes. And so that's been a little hard.
Well, one of the reasons I asked Julia the question that I did is because I believe your film is going to be very powerful in advancing and understanding. I get emotional when I think about it. Did it occur to you, and this is kind of a humorous point, and I want to see your face when I ask the question, did it occur to you that your film is about to become available to every Game of Thrones fan?
Oh, no, I have not thought of that.
Seriously, one of the biggest shows on television people needed to watch on HBO. And now your film is going into that same universe of people from all walks of life, all over the world, that are going to now have access to your film.
Yeah. Oh, well, I can say that I'm so thrilled that it will be on, that it's been being distributed through HBO documentaries, because that's been a dream of mine as a filmmaker, and then the audiences that will see that. I'm really happy about that. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, Mike, before I actually ask you a question, I'm going to show your trailer right now.
Oh,
Don't let last year define who you are.
I don't know, you've been dealing with all of this alone?
Just be open. Be honest.
Yeah, see, isn't that such a mystery?
Aww. Your film has some tear-jerking moments, lots of humorous moments as well. Okay. I wanted to ask you, have you been able to see your film with actual audiences? And have you had people come up to you and say that their views or attitudes or consciousness had been changed because of your film?
We were, I got a little emotional watching that trailer too, shoot. We were very fortunate to have a world premiere at CineQuest in March, and then at Outfest Fusion the very next day. So, and both of those things happened the day before the shutdown went into place. So we were very lucky enough to watch 2 sold-out screenings of the film with 2 very different kinds of audiences. And probably the most touching thing was that both audiences laughed so heartily and so heavily in like the same places, that we knew that there was some sort of special universality around the humor of this film and the message that we were trying to share. And it was an incredible energy and experience to watch it with an audience. And I'll tell you, the thing that means the most to me, and the feedback that we get that I find myself like thinking, you know, it really, I mean, of course it matters what happens with this film, but like if nothing were to happen with this film, I feel already pretty satiated with it, because people saying stuff like, I never thought I'd see myself represented on screen. I never thought that somebody who looked like me or my experience would be reflected back to me. This movie helped me have a conversation with my parents, you know, just sort of having those kinds of moments with people, Muslim or otherwise, Arab or otherwise, LGBTQ plus or otherwise, was really, really probably what meant the most.
Well, it's a gorgeous film. You must have paid a fortune for music rights.
No comment.
Well, one of the things. Well, Sharon, wait till you see this movie. It has one hit after another in it.
It
Original
certainly does in its
recordings.
festival run. I
Yes.
can't promise that the soundtrack of the wide release will be the same.
Okay, so one of the things that I just want to say is that Notes from Hollywood began as a column in 1990. It's now a show. My personal mission statement is to honor and express my creativity in a way that makes a difference. And I love talking to filmmakers, especially when they're making important movies. So send your filmmaker friends to me. I'd love to interview them as well. Julia, is there anything else that you want to revisit or say about the festival that I might not have referenced in any of my questioning?
So the festival, it's October 8th through 18th. If you're in Indianapolis, we will be at the Tibbs Drive-In Theater and at Connor Prairie, which is a Smithsonian affiliate Living History Museum, for a pop-up drive-in. So those will be our two drive-in locations during the festival. And then we'll also have a virtual festival running October 8th through 18th. And you can watch films. You don't have to live in Indiana. You can live anywhere in the world and experience films in the festival. We have 75 films total. 60 plus films are online. And then we have 29 different drive-in screenings. And then Breaking Fast and Transhood are available in the virtual festival, but they're also available at the drive-in. On October 10th, this Saturday, at the Tibbs Drive-In. So if you're in Indianapolis, definitely come out and experience those on the big screen. And then we'll also have a drive-through red carpet. So if you drive your car, you come in, we will have a giant car-sized red carpet.
I want to be there.
Same.
A car-sized red carpet, like with the whole scrim, step and repeat, everything for the car.
Yeah.
Hey, Sharon, swing by LA and pick me up and we'll go together.
Okay.
That
We'll have
sounds
to wear
great.
masks, but
That's fine. Of course we should.
So,
wow.
Sharon, anything you would like to add about your film that I haven't evoked with the question?
Oh, I just hope that my film lets people see that every transgender journey is different, and that people can celebrate that.
And by the way, your film has some twists and turns in it. Unexpected. I'm not going to give away any spoilers, but there's one particular jaw dropper in your film. How's that for teasing? So what about you? What about you, Mike? Anything I haven't evoked with a question?
No, I appreciate your awesomely thoughtful questions, and it's been such a pleasure talking to you all. Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, your questions were great.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You know what? I asked similar questions on an actual red carpet. It's not about who are you wearing. It's like it's important stuff. So thank you all for being on the show. Thank you for everything you're doing. And this episode becomes part of your archives, and you can share it to your heart's content.
Thank you. And thanks, Julia.
Yes,
Thank you, Julia.
Everybody have a wonderful day.
Too.
Oh, I'm going to make you full screen again. I need to put myself back on.
Oh.
Do this. There we go. All right, everybody. See you later. Bye. Oh, you know what? Here we go. Sorry. Here we go. All right. There. I'm hosting, I'm producing, I'm directing, I'm starring, and not in their films, but in this show. There's so many things going on right here. Heartlandfilm.org. I'm just honored that my humanity has connected with the humanity of our filmmakers today and with you, the audience. and I hope that you watch the films. In particular, we know that both films are going to have a future, but why wait until next month to watch Transhood on HBO, or to the opportunity that you have to see Mike's film when you can watch them in the virtual film festival? By the way, there are Q&As that the filmmakers will be experiencing. You can find the Q&A times at the Heartland Film website, but you can also find them at that particular URL that I've listed below. So thanks for watching, much appreciated, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.
You're with me, it's alright. Together, all our lives, a new star is inside.